everyone, welcome to another video. If you're new here, hi, my name is Irit. I'm a watercolor and mixed media artist located in Austria in Europe, and on my channel I share my watercolor adventures. And today I'm going to open up this little friend that I got at my local art supplies shop, and this is from Hahnemühle. And I'll give you a closer look later in the video, but this is actually their second edition of this type of product, which is a paper pad that contains a selection of their watercolor papers, which I think is a brilliant idea, and every brand should make such a pad because it just makes it so much easier for people to try a bunch of papers, see which ones they like, see the differences, and I really appreciate that Hahnemühle has done that, the company has done that. They are German, they've been making paper for hundreds and hundreds of years, and I do love their papers. I'm in Europe, and I know, I really apologize already, because I know some of these papers are hard to find in North America. I think you can find their expression paper, so I do apologize, but for the people that can find this, or you know, you can ask your local art shop or favorite online shop to carry these products. I love the Hahnemühle papers. My current favorites are actually their cheaper papers or cellulose papers, but they make those really thick, heavyweight, and very nice, and they work perfectly for my own techniques, the way that I use watercolor. It's not for everyone, but they also have like more traditional, you know, 100% cotton papers that are beautiful, like Turner. And yeah, this is such a great way to try different papers. Now, if you can't get your hands on this specific one, I also want to mention that I try to mention it as often as I can because I think it's something that everyone should get. Jackson's is a UK-based online art supplies shop, and they carry, I think, quite a few paper samples from different brands, and they usually cost between like $1 to $2, something like that. And if you are placing an order, I would say throw in it like a bunch of these paper samples and try. Hahnemühle, I don't know if they already discontinued the previous version of this product, which was called, I think, the Selection paper pad, something like this. I have a few videos trying out the different papers from probably a couple of years ago now, but I have that on my channel, so you can hear some of my impressions on those papers. So there are 14 sheets here, including their new paper, which is their Agave watercolor paper. So that's interesting. It's not super heavyweight. It's only 290 GSM. And yeah, so let's get into it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have tried any of these papers, please share your opinion with us. The comment section is always very helpful because, you know, I'm just one person and I paint in a certain way and I have certain preferences, but when it comes to these kinds of products, there's no, you know, good or bad. There's just, does it fit your needs and do you like it? So let us know what you have tried, what you think, and yeah, let's paint some samples. Okay, so let's take a bit of closer look. First, I want to tell you how much I paid for this. So I paid €7, and as I said, this is from my local art shop. This comes with 14 sheets that vary in weight, and you have here at the beginning an explanation and all of the specifications of each paper, which surfaces they offer, if you know it's like hot pressed, cold pressed, or rough, and also the formats which they offer. So this is really great reference, and the papers are marked with a number, and then, you know, the corresponding number has the information. Okay, so I'm just going to actually take these apart because I just want to paint on a bunch of them together. My way of testing these is going to paint on them the way that I like to paint. Let's get started. Okay, we have here 1 and 2. This is the collection watercolor. This one is 300 GSM, and this one is the 640 GSM. And these are 100% cotton rag, mold made, surface sized, cold pressed. This one is cold pressed. This one is rough. I'll give you a close-up in a second. Hahnemühle watercolor 300 and 640 set new standards for high-quality watercolor papers. A carefully chosen variety of cotton offers extremely strong fibers and incomparable purity. The selection of the best raw materials and exclusively natural fiber materials, filler materials, gives the Watercolor 300 and Watercolor 640 papers their unparalleled quality. The prized cotton papers, Watercolor 300 and 640, are characterized by a very durable paper surface that is well suited for demanding watercolor techniques. Yeah. The fibers do not lift, rub off, or loosen, even when applying multiple layers of color or when using masking fluids and tapes. Hahnemühle Watercolor 300 and 640 are vegan, resistant to aging, acid-free, available in cold-pressed, rough, and hot-pressed. Let's talk a little bit of, I'm not a huge fan of the rough. This is rough collection watercolor. Personal preference type of thing. Also, I have to say just lately, I'm kind of more into white papers, and these are cream. But I know a lot of people really like cream papers, so you do you. It's totally cool. This one, you can see it kind of, it's not completely dry, but it does buckle a bit. I find that is what most 300 gram papers or, GSM papers do when they're wet. That's why people usually tape them to a board or something. I personally like using blocks because then I don't have to think about that. But this is also the reason that I do enjoy these days painting on heavier paper. I don't need such heavy paper like 640. I usually use the 400 and something that Hahnemühle offers also with their cellulose paper. So I really appreciate that. Now, this one is the cold press. This one I like. I like the texture of, I hope you can see the texture of the paper. So this one is the collection watercolor paper from Hahnemühle. It behaves, I would say, like a classic, 100% cotton, very lovely. You can see here that the colors are vibrant. I guess, I don't know, somehow this one looks just a little bit less vibrant to me. It could be just, I don't know, the application of the color. So I don't know if it's really me or the paper. Obviously, it's very, very luxurious to paint on such heavyweight paper, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't found a paper I love that much that I'm willing to spend so much money on it. For a lot of traditional techniques like lifting and scrubbing and layering and glazing, this would be a good choice. Very, very comparable to many, many other similar papers I've tried. So I'm not blown away. I just think, if you like 100% cotton paper and you can find this for a good price, then it's a good choice. Let's move on to Agave. This is Agave watercolor 290 GSM, 70% agave fiber, 30% cotton rag, cold pressed, and it comes in a variety of sizes of blocks of 12 sheets as well as, single sheets. Agave watercolor is a natural white watercolor paper. It is characterized by its cold pressed and very homogeneous surface texture. It is suitable for all kinds of watercolor techniques, especially for glazing. The special surface of the 290 GSM paper allows brushes to slide over the surface easily and allows for brilliant color gradients. Washouts and corrections are simple possibilities. Agave watercolor is vegan, resistant to aging, and acid-free. If you don't, like I don't, there are other options out there. Okay, so let me tell you what I think about this. My guess, my very uneducated guess, is that agave hopefully is a sustainable option. A future editing Irit here, and I just wanted to say I did look on the Hahnemühle website, and it does say that this paper is a good choice for environmentally conscious artists because this is a fast growing and I guess relatively low resource demanding crop. So that's that about that. Let's get on with it. You need a lot of water to grow cotton, and so I think the industry is probably looking for other solutions, such as I know Hahnemühle has bamboo paper, which unfortunately I tried and I don't like. Surface itself, I like it. It has kind of that delicate texture. They call it cold pressed. It's definitely cold pressed. It's not smooth and it's not rough, but still cold pressed can look very different. And so I really like actually the texture of this one a bit more than their collection paper, but that's just me. And all in all, again, this paper kind of buckled when I painted on it. What I like about it is that the granulation shows very well on it. I would say probably better than it does on these. So that's definitely a plus because I love to see granulation in my paintings. And so what I'm thinking, I can't see this paper really substituting my current papers that I enjoy using. But yeah, if you are, I'm guessing it's also, this is cheaper than cotton paper. I would say for like sketching or experimenting or even like proper paintings that you might consider later to frame, I'm not blown away. It's okay. Let's move on to number 4. Yeah, so this one I kind of recognize. This is their Turner paper. This is classic mold-made watercolor Turner 300 GSM, 100% cotton rag, cold pressed. And what they say about this high quality 100% cotton rag mold made watercolor paper is natural white, vegan, resistant to aging, acid free and material sized. The blocks are glued and gauzed to ensure flatness when wet. All sheets contain the watermark and have genuine 4-deckled edges. The soft, slightly irregular surface structure is ideal for professional artists. Turner is suitable for all wet painting techniques, watercolor, gouache, tempera, and acrylic. It comes in blocks of 10 sheets and it comes in, single sheets with 4 deckled edges, which is very, very nice. I like Turner. It's one of my favorite 100% cotton papers. I love the surface. I love everything about it. I think the watercolor just behaves really beautifully on it. I have bought this paper in the past. I really, really love it. It's one of my favorite Hahnemühle papers. I wanted to say that I prefer it to this one, the first one, the collection Watercolor 300, but I think they're quite similar with the look and the feel. The surface is just a teeny tiny bit different. But yeah, I would say these are pretty comparable. So if you can get just one of them where you are, I don't think you're missing much. Yeah, as I said, I just kind of moved away from the traditional cotton papers to cellulose papers because Hahnemühle makes such good ones. But this one is a great option. Number 5. So this one is mold-made watercolor Hahnemühle 300 GSM cold pressed. I guess it doesn't really have a name. This paper is natural white, vegan, resistant to aging, acid-free and material sized. The blocks are glued and gauzed to ensure flatness when wet. All sheets contain the watermark and have 4 deckled edges. Cold press surface, slightly irregular surface structure. Painting on dry surface results in full brush strokes. An intensive, even coloring when applying the wet painting technique. When using the board, working with mixed paint is recommended for the wet painting techniques. Available in cold press and rough. So this one is just called watercolor paper and it doesn't say that it's from cotton, so I'm guessing it's not. I think probably one of Hahnemühle's strengths are their cellulose paper because I don't know, from what I've tried, I don't find their cotton papers to be far superior than other brands, you know, such as Arches. I like Hahnemühle because most of their papers are vegan and Arches are not. This one is, you know, it's a paper pretending to be cotton, and it's, I don't know, I'm not sure how good of a job it is. It's like one of these things that I don't have strong feelings. It's kind of okay, whatever. So let's just, I'm just trying to see. See, this is a good example of lifting cellulose paper, how you can lift the color. So it is forgiving, but yeah, I wouldn't try any glazing. So it kind of depends on the effects that you're looking for. I don't mind this quality. For me, sometimes it actually works because you can bring sometimes highlights later in your painting. But for a lot of people, that's like a big no-no. You see that with the cotton paper, you have to work much harder to lift the paint. So that's one of the kind of hallmarks of cellulose paper. Is it good or bad? You decide. For me, it doesn't really matter because I don't lift a lot of paint and I don't glaze a lot, so I don't need the paint to be unliftable, but you decide. Okay, let's move on to number 6 and 7. We have here Harmony, and this is Harmony Watercolor 300 GSM cold press surface sized. This one, natural white paper for all wet painting techniques. It has surface sizing, colors stand out excellently on the paper and impress with their natural brilliance, thus giving every subject its very own unique presence. Masking fluids or masking tape can be used and removed residue-free, while wet watercolors can be easily corrected or taken off. Harmony watercolor is vegan, resistant to aging, and acid-free. It's available in cold pressed, rough, and hot pressed, and all are eraser resistant due to the surface sizing. These are definitely not the papers for me. This, I feel, really behaves like those classic student grade papers, like the Canson Montval, I think, which is fine. You know, I think these papers are great for, you know, you can do sketchbooks where you can play with composition, with color combinations, with that sort of thing. But I miss something here that I feel other papers give me. I do want to mention that the granulation is showing beautifully on this paper, and the colors are very brilliant and very bright and vivid. So I'll give it that, but there's just something about it. I don't know if it's the surface sizing, to be honest with you, but there's just something about how, you know, you just put like a blob of paint and it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't communicate as beautifully with the paper as I feel other papers do. And so I wouldn't buy more of this for myself. I do think the Agave paper actually had a better feel to it for me. Okay, let's move on to the next papers. I'm not even going to look and see what they are. I'm just going to put them so I can paint. This one I know, and I know I don't like. This is rough paper. I really, really don't like that. And I can already recognize my lovely super white cellulose papers that are nice and heavy. is the hot press. So here we have all of the Harmony papers. Probably my least favorite. Nothing to write home about. I don't like them. Okay, let's move on to number 9. This is Expression Watercolor 300 GSM. This is 100% cotton rag, cold press, surface sized. This is natural white, 100% cotton, surface sized paper, suitable for all wet painting techniques and etching. Expression watercolor features surface sizing. Colors stand out excellently on the paper and impress with their natural brilliance, thus giving every subject its very own unique presence. Masking fluids or masking tape can be used and removed residue-free, while wet colors can be easily corrected or taken off. Expression watercolor is vegan, resistant to aging, and acid-free. The surface is eraser-resistant due to the surface sizing. I just didn't really like this paper. Even though it's cotton, I would much rather use the Turner. I don't know, I guess it's just the way that the watercolor behaves on the surface that is not my cup of tea. The colors do look very vibrant, so I'll agree with that. But other than that, this paper really doesn't do anything for me. 10. This is Watercolor Britannia 300 GSM cold pressed. Then we have the rough, and we have the hot pressed, which I'm actually familiar with because I'm using it now for my sketchbook. I ran out of the previous paper I was using, so now I'm using this one. And yeah, so I have a thing with hot pressed. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watercolors come, I should have said that at the beginning. Watercolor paper comes in 3 different surfaces. Hot pressed, which is very, very smooth, so think about like ironing something. Cold pressed, which has a little bit of texture, as you can see. And rough, which has a lot of texture. I personally don't like the Hahnemühle rough papers that I've tried. The texture is way too organized or something. It doesn't look natural. You can see it creates a unique effect, so maybe this is something you're into. I don't like working on it. I don't like this effect. I don't like anything about it. So for me, this is a definite no-no. As for the paper itself, Britannia, so let's read about it. Natural white, vegan, resistant to aging and acid-free. Stability and strength of this paper offers excellent flatness when wet. The hard surface offers easy application of color, ideal for all wet painting techniques, watercolor, especially wet in wet painting, smooth wash and also dry painting, as well as gouache, tempera, and acrylic. I do agree that this paper doesn't buckle that much, a bit less than other papers, I might even say. It doesn't say that it's cotton, so it's not cotton. But I think this is an okay paper for sketchbooks. I just bought a big pad. I don't have the price on it. I bought a big pad so I can use it for my sketchbooks that we're making in watercolor workbook. So it's just very convenient because the pads, they come in 30 by 40 centimeters, and the size needed for the little golden book, if you're converting it to sketchbook, is exactly half. So you just have to cut this in half to 2 sheets of 20 by 30 centimeters, and then you have the perfect size for this sketchbook. And yeah, so I'm really enjoying it. That's why I bought it. It's not super expensive. It's not cotton. I don't need for my sketchbooks cotton paper for this kind of thing where I'm just swatching and mixing. I don't need cotton paper. If you feel you do, that's totally okay. But yeah, so for that purpose, I think this is a good choice. Also, if you want to scan things, maybe you don't want to keep, like a hard copy of things. Maybe you want to play around, then scan it to your computer and then actually toss the paper. So smooth paper works well when you scan it. Sometimes the texture of the paper of the rougher papers can get a bit in the way of the scan. So I don't hate this paper. It's nice. I like the cold press one, hate the rough one. But yeah, it serves its purpose for me, for a sketchbook and also paper I can easily scan. You can see the granulation on it pretty nicely. You can see here, that's beautiful. There's something about smooth paper, if you haven't tried it, there's something very pleasant about the experience, especially if you're using, like me, mixed media with something like a pastel that resists the watercolor. It just, that effect shows better on smooth paper. And you can see just like a little example here. So I do find it enjoyable when I'm, sketching on it with my pastels or my pencils. I can see a place for this paper in my studio, but probably not as a paper I would want to paint, like, proper paintings, but more of a playing around paper. That's how I feel about it right now. Okay, the last two I am very, very familiar with, and this one is the Torchon. I don't know, it's probably French and probably has a lovely pronunciation. Torchon, sorry if I mispronounced it, 275 GSM. This is vegan, resistant to aging, and acid-free. The French word torchon characterizes a very coarse linen structure. So is the surface of this board. The blocks are glued and gauze. We've done that before. It's ideal for all wet painting techniques, watercolor, especially for effects with hard-edged colors and smooth washes, and also gouache, tempera, and acrylic. I really like these kinds of papers from Hahnemühle. It's just my personal taste. I'll explain why. First of all, let's take a look at the granulation. So I think you would agree with me that this paper really loves granulation. I also like the texture of it. I really enjoy that look. I like the fact that it's so white. Currently, that's what I'm into, and it just makes me happier than the more like ivory colored papers. Again, personal preference. So I'm really enjoying it, but my personal favorite is the next one. So this is the Cornwall 450 GSM cold pressed. And this one, bright white, vegan, resistant to aging, and acid-free. Heavyweight, provides a very stable paper that ensures improved flatness when wet. Cornwall offers good color flow and high color intensity. This quality is ideal for wet painting techniques, watercolor, especially smooth washes and dry painting, and also gouache, tempera, and acrylic. Available in cold press and rough. I don't like the rough, but the cold press is kind of my go-to, and I suspect that their unnamed paper that I use all the time, which I've shown here multiple times, it just says Aquarelle on the package, which is just watercolors in German, but they feel kind of the same. What I love about this paper is that it's so thick, it doesn't buckle at all, even if you pour water on it, which makes it really, really nice to paint on. It just gives it, to me, a luxurious experience without the price tag of, 600 GSM cotton, 100% cotton rag. I love the vibrancy of the colors. I love the way that the granulation shows on this paper. And it just works for me, for my techniques, for the way that I paint, for the way that I use color and mixed media. I love this paper. I feel it's really, really enjoyable and has everything I need. So I hope that when you hear my criticism or opinions, you can take from it why I enjoy a certain product and then figure out if it would work for you. Because I think actually most watercolor artists paint differently than I do, use other techniques, and so it might not be the paper for them, but for me, I mean, just like look at the texture. It's just so nice to work with this. So this is what works for me. This is how I love to paint. And yeah, I feel like this paper is such a treat, and I don't think that many companies make such a product, which is also, you know, something I want to mention. And of course I haven't tried all brands. I tried to try things that are just local to me because it makes the most sense. It's the most affordable option. And yeah, this one kind of ticks all the boxes in my, you know, checklist. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you will try painting like this, playing around with different papers. I really encourage you to try and paint on a variety of surfaces and see how you feel about it. You might be surprised to discover what works for you. And that is it for me. I will see you after Easter, so in 2 weeks. Yeah, have a wonderful holiday, whatever you're celebrating, Easter, Passover, Ramadan. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you soon. Take care, bye-bye.